Welcome to the Decision Lab podcast, the sanctuary for wellness professionals like therapists, coaches, creators, and more who are looking to over-deliver to their clients.
We uncover the truth behind cutting-edge wellness products by going straight to the founder.
We use our backgrounds in neuroscience, chemical engineering, and marketing to ask the hard questions in order to eliminate bias, misinformation, and fancy marketing language.
Allowing you to make better wellness decisions and recommendations for yourself and your clients.
So if you're a leader in the health and wellness space, welcome. This podcast was designed for you.
Join us every week for interviews that will change how you think about wellness.
Welcome to the Decision Lab podcast. Today we have Mandy Poston. Mandy is the founder and CEO of Availist. In my words, is a platform to help small food and beverage businesses connect with consumers using personalization and trend matching. We're going to figure out her words here in a second. Mandy is a successful startup vet. She has nearly 20 years of experience in tech and operations. She holds an MSc from New York University in Management of Technology and a BA from Boston University in Psychology. Apparently, she is a big fan of puns and spicy food as well. Welcome to the podcast, Mandy.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. I got to know, before we even get into this, do you have any just on-hand puns or any crazy food recommendations for us?
Any on-hand puns? I think those have to happen organically, really, in the middle of a conversation, but it'll probably happen. It's more of a sickness that I have, so I don't know that I can really hold that in. Any food recommendations, like spicy food recommendations?
Spicy food, yeah.
I mean, right now I'm very into Thai chilies. I went to an East Asian market that they have in a park here in Philly, which was great, and got a very large bag of them for only $5. And so they're kind of going into everything that I eat right now.
The Thai chilies. Okay. Is there any specific way? I don't know. I'm uneducated in Thai chili. Are there such thing as good chili and bad, or no?
I think that depends on the person. I tend to like most chilies, but I've seen other people react negatively, certainly. I think for me, the approach to spice is to think about it holistically. So pair it with something that rounds out that flavor instead of just, abusing yourself.
I think she's talking about chilies, the vegetable, Miles, not chili right. I'm going to eat some chili.
Right. Thai chili, the vegetables.
Yes, got it.
Because when I go to the store and pick out a watermelon, you got to knock on it and figure out which one is a good watermelon. I didn't know if there was a way to figure out good chilies versus not. But anyways.
Yeah, that's it. I think a lot of that happens after you eat it.
After you eat it. Okay. It's luck of the draw. Cody, do we have anything special for our guests today?
Yes. Before we get started, we always like to start with a segment we don't talk about, which is kind of a surprise. So we've got a special message from somebody close to you that we want to share with you real quick.
Yeah.
So let's take a listen.
3 words that I would use to describe Mandy are inspirational, unapologetic, and best of all, spunky. Mandy has so much spunk in her stuff, and I love it. It's energizing, and when it comes to the ways that you've impacted me, I feel like I've truly gained a friend in addition to a colleague. Again, you inspire me every day with everything that you do, and I really enjoy the times that we get to catch up, the work that we've done together, and I'm so excited to continue to watch you succeed. Thank you so much for everything that you've done for me and for just being there, and thank you for the work that you're doing to really change the way that the world operates. You are the best, seriously.
So tell us a little bit about what Dr. Laura means to you, and a little bit about who she is.
Dr. Laura is amazing. I haven't known her that long, I think. Well, when you think about sort of as long as I've been alive, but I was fortunate enough to be introduced to her through a mutual contact, someone that worked at one of my investors. She immediately changed my life, and we started working together. And I mean, she's one of the most intelligent, friendliest, kindest, but also most productive people I've ever encountered in my life.
Yes.
I think, a lot of times hyper-productive people maybe don't take the time to be as thoughtful and friendly and kind as she is. And it's such a beautiful combination. And there are times where I will get bogged down by the day to day, and I sort of think what would Laura do? And it's just shut up and get it done.
Dang, that's powerful. She's on your Mount Rushmore. I call it making decisions from the person that you want to be instead of making the decision from the person that you are. And that's awesome that she's like, you're going through something like, what would she do? And that helps you reframe yourself to be more of who you want to be. Love that. Okay. So are you ready to dive into the story of who you are?
Sure.
Okay. Question number 1. What are 3 major milestones that you've come to in your life so far?
3 major milestones. I think one of the first ones for me was post-college, moving to New York without a plan, but just a desire to live in that city. I fell in love with it young. And that was really, I think, a defining moment for me in terms of proving to myself that I could get it done and make it. And this was, I'm dating myself, but this was back before, this was MapQuest days. This was not Google Maps days. So when I landed there, I remember my furniture got delayed. And so I just had this empty studio apartment and I didn't even have a lamp. So my first mission was just, I need something to sleep on. Like, I just need something to sleep on. And I couldn't Google about it. So I was walking the streets and just happened to wander. It's New York, so obviously there are plenty of options, but I wasn't really sure about that. And I wandered into a hardware store and found the only air mattress they had on the top shelf, which was too tall for me, and made it that worked for about a week, just sleeping on an air mattress. Beyond that, I think formative for me was when I joined my last company. I left a very secure job, a lot of cushion, and joined a startup with 0 revenue and, again, no plan. Nice. And, we ended up building that company successfully, which I can dig into a little bit. And then, again, just sort of being able to operate in the unknown is really important. And, I think there's a theme here to those 2 for sure. And then I think, another milestone for me is ever evolving. So I hope this isn't kind of a cop out, but just like maintaining, my family and my friends through all of that and building this network of people that I love and that impress me all the time is really important to me. And it's not a singular moment in time, but it's like pretty fundamental pillar.
Okay, I love that. And that leads us into the next question, actually, of who are 3 people that you look up to and why?
3 people that I look up to and why. I think, professionally, actually, my first manager stands out. She was one of the scrappiest individuals I've ever encountered in my life. I remember telling a story about how she would sell candy at school and offer discounts to people and made a hefty profit that way, which sounds shifty, but it was an interesting way to think about things, biting off large problems in small chunks and being able to tackle really tough challenges that way. And I think that stayed with me a little bit. When I step into those arenas that I was just talking about, where I feel very overwhelmed, or, I'm always intentionally getting myself in over my head. You just have to approach it in terms of like bite-sized challenges you can tackle. This is a unit, but my parents, I think, are very inspirational to me. They both came from, modest means, and my father was in the Army, and we moved around a lot. My mom was tasked with raising us and was alone in a different country and with a language she didn't speak. And they did a really good job of, I think, working together in very difficult circumstances to always provide for us in a safe space. And they still do, and they're very open and accessible, and they're always learning, and exposed us to a lot when we were little, which I think is really important and foundational. And I'm going to stick with family. She was just here as well. My grandmother she's 92. Wow. And is a badass tour de force. She just flew up here to Philly from North Carolina the other weekend. She drives herself around. She just holds a lot of love in her heart for everyone she meets, even people that, she disagrees with on topics. She approaches it from a place of love, and I think that's pretty inspirational.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, 92. That is up there. I love that.
It's almost 93.
Almost 93. Wow.
What day?
November 3rd.
November 6th. We almost had the same birthday.
That's a big day also.
So with that being said, we've gone through kind of some major milestones you've gone to, people you look up to. What are some of the mantras that have formulated from that that you tell yourself that help you get to be who you want to be?
I think some of them I kind of alluded to in that last response, and they're going to sound cliche whenever you pull them out of context, I think, but like tackle things one at a time, small bits, and make progress that way. That's I think so important to any long-term progress or large challenges that you're facing, is just each little step really does matter, and it can be hard to see, but if you prove that enough times to yourself, you can start to believe it going forward. I think I'm thinking of things that like run through my head when things are challenging. Yeah. I'm definitely someone with an inner monologue. I watched that video the other day. Hey.
Thanks.
Yeah. Last lap is something I hear in my head a lot when I'm doing something challenging. And, that can be anything, sort of emotional, physical, or professional. You can make it. It's almost over, and then you get to rest. And then I think kind of building on that is like, okay, now I'm going to take a little time. And I think building in that time for yourself in whatever way fills you back up. And sometimes that's, putting time in your calendar to work out or to just zone out or to cook. I think for me, that's one thing I do to clear my head. I think those are, I don't know about maybe mantra is not the right word, but those are all sort of really important things.
You answered the question beautifully. We love that. Okay. So obviously you're very successful, started companies, are doing a lot of really great things. Just to help build transparency around the idea that nobody really has it all the way figured out. If you're open to being vulnerable, and take this as deep or shallow as you would like to, but what is a personal problem or something that you feel like you've had to work on overcoming or struggled with in your life so far?
All of the things. Yeah, I've had this conversation, especially in the scope of startups with people. You hear people's stories, they're always pretty polished and scrubbed. And even when they talk about the difficult times, it's just a footnote that you can kind of hurdle over. They neglect to really dig into just the turmoil and deep anxiety and pain and insecurity that you go through when you're doing something you don't know how to do, which we're all doing all the time. I'm speaking specifically in the professional sense there. I don't sleep. I mean, I do sleep, but I have many nights where I'll wake up and am I most productive at 2 a.m. thanks to the technological advancements of the iPhone and all that you can accomplish on there. I have lockjaw from being too stressed out and clenching my teeth too much. I have to take some very intentional steps to be sure that I'm protecting myself and, really giving myself the space to navigate stressful situations in a healthy way.
Man.
Damn, I can definitely relate to that as a fellow anxious achiever.
Yeah. I love that. Thank you for your vulnerability. Okay. What are a couple of groups or communities that you have been a part of or that you would associate with? So college, were you in DECA? Are you in a rum club? Do you identify with being an anxious achiever or super high on extroversion? What are a few identities or tribes that you would put yourself into?
Did you say run club?
Yeah, run club.
I heard rum club and thought that was just very oddly specific. I was in neither. I think it's an interesting question today, especially because communities have become so virtual and accessible, regardless of where you're located. I think in building the company, I've been excited to be a part of an organization called Start Out, which supports LGBTQ plus the entrepreneurial community with resources and education and training. That was, that's one that I've received mentorship for and returned it as well. That's exciting. I have also more recently gotten back into basketball with a lovely group in Philly. 10 years ago, when I moved to Philly, I didn't know anyone. And so I played basketball, but I ended up in a situation with a lot of ex-college athletes, and I was not. I played in high school, but other than that, it's always been fun. So it was out of my league, pun intended. There it is. So I'd sort of been on the lookout for kind of the just want to have a good time, 40-ish group that isn't trying to risk injury or even take things too seriously. And I found a great group here in Philly that's been a really good outlet, and they don't even keep score. It's, everyone's welcome, and it's just like a great chance to get out there and have a good time.
Okay.
Miles and I are both former college basketball players, and we hoop all the time. So I love hearing. Tomorrow morning I'm playing Friday morning hoops at this. It's like a networking type event. So
nice.
I love to hear that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so I heard startups specifically around the LGBTQ, sorry, and then we're a basketball player. I love that. Okay, what or how have you changed in the past 5 or 10 years? Like if we were to pull out who you were 5 or 10 years ago versus who you are now, what are a couple key characteristics that are different?
Yeah, I think of 3. I'll probably forget one by the end of this sentence because I have a bit of a goldfish memory, but one is, I'm still highly anxious, but my willingness to just get started on things that capacity has gotten a lot greater after sitting in the founder's seat of a company, for sure. I think that kind of segues into another, which is don't wait, make a decision. I'm considerably more decisive now than I was 5 years ago. I heard someone put it fairly well, and I'm probably even misquoting, but it's like, the best decision is the right one. The worst one is no decision. It's so much better to make the wrong decision and learn a lesson and pivot and move forward than it is to just sit there kind of contemplating what you're going to do, because nothing's going to change. And I think that a lot of that comes from building a business. A lot of that comes from just living in the world that we all experienced during the pandemic. And, a lot of people had plans that maybe they were thinking about and didn't move forward on. And then those plans were fundamentally altered when the world shifted in such a dramatic way. And that trickles down. I see that at work, but I also see that in, the grocery store. And there's no wrong decision. Just like move forward and then deal with the circumstances that you have. And as promised, I forgot the third thing I was going to say.
Perfect. Hey, sometimes it's quality over quantity, and I don't think 3 things needed to be said. That is important. Decisions, we are going to get more into that, hence Decision Lab. Decisions are very, very, very important. Speaking of, last thing about you before we start heading into Availist, what is the hardest thing you've had to do in your life?
The hardest thing I've had to do in my life. That's such a definitive and specific question. I think vague answer is just keep moving through all of the things. There have been times where in recent history as well, and I won't go into detail, but went through some pretty dramatic and very tragic personal circumstances. And you just have to keep moving forward and take space for yourself, do what you can there. But you just keep moving through that pain because it's worth it.
Keep moving through the pain. Okay. All right. I love it. So recapping kind of the things that we talked about who you are. We've heard a lot about startups. We've heard a lot about keep moving, feeling the anxiety, keep going, keep going, keep going. And you seem to be very relationship oriented with your family. So can you talk to us about how that has kind of transitioned into what you're doing with Availist? So what does Availist mean to you?
I think there's a couple ways you could answer that question, what it means to me personally as Mandy versus what it means as a business and externally. I think personally...
Man, you're beating me to my questions. You can answer both. That was the next one.
Okay. I think personally, I love creating things. I really... I'm not particularly crafty, but I like building things from scratch. I like seeing ideas sort of take life, and, Availist and starting a company is a way to do that. I fully recommend to anyone who gets energy from that to give it a shot. No matter what happens, you're going to learn some really important things. And I love that. And it's probably not a great thing when you have such an extension of yourself as your work, because you can take all of the highs and the lows really personally, but it's also, it's really exciting and enriching, and that's very fun. I think from the sense of what does Availist mean to, or what are we trying to accomplish with who we're working for, I won't get into specifics because I think we're going to go there with later questions, but on a fundamental level, I think we're trying to prioritize connecting people with the food and beverage that they like, based on preference. And food is a really powerful thing in people's lives. It connects cultures. It helps people cross cultural divides where they may have trouble connecting otherwise. And in the world that we live in now, where information has become so segmented and difficult to sort of traverse and sort of see through, creating a space where we can kind of create more transparency and create more opportunities for people to find brands that they actually like is, I think, something we're excited about.
Okay, so just to make sure that I don't put improper words in your mouth, the question that I was planning on asking, which I feel like you answered, was like, what characteristics, identity, values does Availist embody? And what I heard was connecting cultures, building transparency, and then building community within that. Okay, awesome. With that being said, who is your enemy? What is Availist trying to move away from?
I wouldn't use the term enemy. I think that's interesting and aggressive. I think what we are trying to sort of innovate or disrupt is the way that essentially companies have to pay for visibility today. So we are bringing new approaches to connecting companies with consumers without digital ads and ad budgets, essentially.
So we have a very similar, I know you don't want to deem them enemy. I deem it as our enemy. Our enemy is money blocks the best solutions. It's not the best decision, the best solution, the best experience. It's which one has the most money so that I get front facing and you have to look at me first. And I love that. That is, we're very synergistic with that. Okay. So with that being said, if I granted you a magic genie and handed it to you and you could do anything you wanted to with no fail, paint me a picture of what the world would look like compared to what it looks like now within the demographic of what Availist is doing.
I think you could not just search for and connect with. I'm speaking from the perspective of the consumer who, is not necessarily our paying customer, but you could not just search for and connect with, but also discover new things that you're looking for and that you love without stress on those businesses to kind of scrape their way to the top of the pile.
I love it. And then obviously there are other companies who are trying to do similar things. What made you start your own company instead of just going along with other solutions that are already out there?
Well, I think, first of all, there's always spaces for iterations of solutions out there. I mean, there's obvious examples like Coke and Pepsi, but also if there is a solution doing what we ultimately want to do, I haven't found it. That's probably because it's very hard to find things today, which is actually part of the problem that we're working on. And I think, there's a lot of different ways to connect with different audiences, and what we're building and the way we're attacking this problem is going to resonate with certain people and not others. And the people it doesn't resonate with deserve a solution that's going to work for them.
Yes.
That's a cool way to look at it. I like that.
I love that too. Okay. So recapping what we talked about so far, get out there and do your thing. And then you're really working hard on helping people make the right decisions for them and bringing some transparency and democracy to it instead of it just being, wow, this is where the people with money want somebody to go.
Yes. That is sort of the end result of, I think, the painkiller we're trying to create. The way that we're doing that is by working with the businesses and helping them get exposure by navigating the channels of access to consumers that exist today in a way that they can't afford.
You are just on it today. You're getting right to the questions that I'm about to ask right before I get there. So with that being said, 20 years of startup experience in tech. What are some big concepts or understandings that you've been able to apply that has helped you build what you're building today?
Some big concepts. I think one is just what we talked about, that there's more than one way to solve a problem. And you can build your solution in a space where others exist and still meet the need of people that are looking for it. I started at a very large company, which is now the largest in what it does in the world, and was well aware of competition that was doing the exact same thing that was also becoming very large. So I don't think that's ever really been a barrier to me in terms of getting started on something. I think just the philosophy of access to information and connecting people that will benefit from that connection. So I won't go into too much detail, but so my background prior to starting Availist was in language technology and services. And the nature of that is connecting limited English speakers with people that can help them converse with services that they need. You know, the example being a Spanish speaker goes to a hospital and can't talk to their doctor. We could help connect them with someone who can facilitate that conversation. And this sort of theory that when you're working on something that ultimately is going to make two people who want each other get together, you're working towards a problem that's going to make people happy. And even though there are going to be bumps in that road, I think when your customers, whoever that paying or non, can see that that's your intention, I think they're excited to try it. And I think they even have a little bit of a higher threshold for when things don't work.
Hey, I love that. I agree. Okay, so the next question that we've been kind of waiting on the fence to is, who is the product made for?
It is me. Just kidding. It's made for both. There's a B2B and a B2C element, right? So there's an application which consumers can use to search and connect with food. There, from the really more monetization side, there's a platform and supporting services that we offer to businesses that help them get visibility, not just on our app, but across multiple channels.
Okay, so it's made for on the B2C side, helping them make better decisions based on what they want. And on the B2B side, it's almost a loophole to be able to get access and attention without having to use massive ad spend.
Yeah. I can go into a little bit more detail about that if you want, if it's sounding a little bit obscure, but I didn't want to just like shove our story down your throat.
Yeah. We appreciate that. We'll see how much time we have, and I think we'll probably get to maybe some more detailed questions on that at the end. Okay, we'll go to both of them because it's a double-sided thing. What gets in the way of them achieving this now?
A lot, but I think, primarily on both sides of that space is marketing. Ad budgets. Obviously, the consumer's not paying ad budgets, but they're being thwarted by it. If you search for something you want, and you made reference to this earlier, you're not going to see what you want. You're going to see something that's close to what you want that could afford to be seen. And you're a business, and we actually, I think a little bit of important context here. So we started during the pandemic. Everyone starts out a problem they've been facing, and mine was frustration ordering delivery, right? And that's when I started to dig into the way that you search for food and realized it was less a supply chain issue and more of a search engine issue, in that that's what I was running into. I was looking for things and I wasn't getting what I wanted. I was getting something close to what I wanted that could pay to be seen. And when only a few companies could afford that in the beginning, it became very obvious. And so that's how we started, and we had some success there. But as we were building the company, we realized we were getting pretty good at reaching audiences across not just the app, but across social. And we were getting a lot of conversions there. And that's one of the main sources of information and channels to reach consumers today, right? It's not just search engines. Mm-hmm. And so when we started to examine who would benefit most from that, and that's sort of what I wanted to specify here is, we still have all food and beverage information on the app for consumers. That's something we want to offer to them. But in terms of who benefits most from exposure to a national audience and who's struggling really hard, we realized very early stage CPG companies have a hard time getting off the ground because of how expensive it is to be seen across channels where you're exposed to consumers. And then just even in the marketplaces where they operate, they're getting pushed to the bottom if they're not spending a lot of money.
Could you define
CPG is consumer packaged goods for anybody who doesn't know what that is? So if you walk into a grocery store and you see all these pretty colors and all these different things, those are consumer packaged goods, if you will.
Absolutely. Thank you for that clarification. That was exactly what I was gonna allude to. So just to kind of give a quick recap of what we talked about, early stage CPG companies and consumers who want to make better decisions around food, essentially, is who we're targeting and what we're helping them with.
Yeah, I want to take a note there in terms of better decisions. I don't think we're saying we're going to help you make a better decision. I think what we're saying is we're going to help you get access to what you're looking for. The decision is yours.
Okay, I love you keep leading me into the next thing. Okay, could you please define what a good decision is? Is it following desire? Is it following hedonism? How do you know if you're actually helping your client base?
I cannot tell you what a good decision is. I think I have too much evidence to the contrary in my own life to tell you I'm not a great decision maker. But again, yeah, we're not trying to say this is the right thing for you because we say so. We're trying to say, hey, this is what you were actually looking for, and this is who's looking for you, and we're going to help connect you. And then you can decide if you like it and you want to move forward, or if you want to come back. We're not going to get in the way of that.
Okay. And so you help them make better decisions for themselves. And the way that you do that is by connecting them to people who you feel solves the solution that they're looking for.
I mean, if somebody's looking for, candy, that may not be the healthiest choice for them. We're not going to say don't have the candy. We're going to say here's candy, and here's like a small candy company that you can look for. We are making some own determinations on our end about like qualifiers for the early stage companies that we bring on, and we have some values and philosophies that we're not, we haven't put in writing yet. And so I don't want to say here as whole truths. It's a little bit of a sort of a judgment call on our end. So, we want to bring on partners that we're proud of, but it's not about helping someone make a better decision. It's about giving people access to real information that's not been paid for.
So the way, and I know you keep saying you're not helping them make a better decision, just for the audience, for them to change or make a new decision, the way that you're helping them do that is by giving them transparency and more clear information that they wouldn't have had available to them before.
Yeah, I think that's the intention.
Yeah, so it's not like I'm telling you to do this. I'm giving you information that you can then use to make something that will fit your needs better than what you had before. With that being said, what responsibility do you feel that you hold?
I think, we hold responsibility to maintain there's some like IT terms running through my head, but the integrity and availability of the information for the consumer. We are not working to in any specific way. We're not a marketing company. And I think we hold responsibility to the businesses to be honest about the reach and the effort that we're putting into that relationship to help them gain traction with consumer visibility in a way that's difficult for them today.
Could you rephrase the owner part for me?
The what part?
When you were talking about the transparency of information and stuff from the business side, could you rephrase that in a way that makes it a little bit more clear for me? Sorry, I didn't quite understand that.
Yeah, no, that's okay. I think, what we're trying to do at this stage, and we're young, right? So and we're talking with young companies, and I think in a really good way, we can have candid conversation with them. They don't always find when they're looking for business solutions, because business tends to position itself as, a surefire element to success. And then business owners, just like consumers, get frustrated when that's not what's delivered to them. But for the businesses, I think what we do is, the platform that we show them gives them analytics, and not creepy big data analytics, but analytics about the performance of the content that they're doing with us, and the actual savings versus what they would be spending in the market, which is huge for them, because that's tracking and math you don't have time to do if you're trying to build a company. So I think owning the transparency of that data, but also owning that, this is the reach that we have today. This is the effort we're going to put into it, our business relationship, and we're going to hope that, X result happens, but we can't guarantee that for you.
Okay. So just to make sure I heard accurately, you feel responsible for truth or accuracy behind the information that you deliver both to the consumer and to the B2B side, and specifically on the B2B side, the information about the ROI that they're getting of working with you versus what they would potentially be doing on the ad spend side.
Yeah. I mean, I think because we're servicing that information to them, we can say at a certain point if we're not the right product for them, and then they can leave and be happier with the other product. And that's okay. We'd rather have people that are benefiting from what we do.
I love that. Okay. So do you have any ways to measure? Obviously, you specialize in behavior and consumer decision making, things like that. Do you have any way to know if you're actually impacting satisfaction or not?
Impacting satisfaction for the consumer? There are ancillary ways to access that information, but not in sort of I mean, I know I'm also talking to some data folks here, not in a way right now that's part of really what we're servicing to the customer. We aren't a marketplace when someone uses the app that has leave a 5-star review, because we think that actually is fundamentally flawed and hurts especially small businesses bigger, more than others. So, but what we can show is impressions on the content, and we can show either interactions or click-throughs, which is the same. Those are the same analytics they're getting from other providers as well. And then what hopefully they'll see is, their revenue line moving up and to the right.
Okay. I love that. And so what about, I guess what I heard is you're measuring your success and your ability to help the customer based on impressions, and if they continue to keep coming back to use it versus if they use it and then don't.
Yeah, I think what we're saying is, hey, I mean, in a very simple way, like no business terms, we're saying, hey, we are plugged into the ecosystem at large. And so with our tech on the B2B side, essentially we listen to trends across not just the social platforms, but news and search engines. And we say, hey, we're going to use that information and help you with content that has a better chance of getting more eyes on it, right? Because especially with small CPG companies, even in a way that restaurants don't have, they don't get foot traffic, right? Like they can't get visibility unless they're in front of people. So we say, hey, we're going to find that information. We're going to get you in front of more eyes. And like what we should be able to track is that those eyes start to convert into orders for you.
Okay. I love that. And so if I'm a small business who has developed the most elite cuisine out there, but I'm not getting enough foot traffic, what alternative options am I probably using right now? And how can what you're doing be a better solution for them?
Yeah, I think, they're doing what everyone does, but they're creating their own content, which is great and important. You should build your brand. We can help get exposure for your brand in a different way because we are building a community of people interested in food, right? And so they're already paying attention to us around that topic, and then we can introduce you into that community. Those businesses today are, if they're not creating their own content, which some people are great at, some people struggle with. And when you struggle with it, it just doesn't get as much traction, right? So if they are paying for that, for great content, that's a very pricey line item for a small business. Many of them turn to influencers as well. And that's obviously in the creator economy, a very, very lucrative individual profession. Also extraordinarily expensive. It's usually a one-time deal for those businesses, and it's a total coin toss. They don't know if it's going to work. And oftentimes, I think we're starting to see across these platforms, the number of followers actually isn't the biggest thing. It's the engagement and the views on the content, right? So they're paying $500,000, thousands of dollars to these individuals based on follower accounts and really getting no ROI on that. Or they're paying to boost their content across those platforms. I can't say the next thing for sure. I haven't done this math, but paying for, also if I just put it out in the world, like who knows what's going to happen to me, but paying for content for visibility on those platforms could possibly work to your disadvantage if you then have to stop paying and may not see the same sort of support and rewards that you were seeing before. Again, I'm not making any claims about what's true or not with those algorithms, but that is a hypothetical possibility that could hurt the business as well.
Okay.
I'll say it. I'll say the wild thing. I've seen it on accounts that we run and have helped people with. When they stop putting ad spend towards things, their organic reach drops as well.
Right.
Whether or not that's programmed into the algorithm or not, like it is something that I have seen. Is it a large sample size? No, but I have seen that. So
yeah,
I'll say it.
Yeah.
I love that. And people, if they don't have that information, are going to be out here just floundering, doing what they were doing before. And so what I heard, and this actually goes to science of behavior and psychology. I don't know. Have you heard of the innovation curve in the trust wheel?
I'd love to hear more about it.
Okay, so basically it's this concept of there's like a bell curve, right? And that is the entire human population. There's 100% of the human population on this bell curve. Psychologically, there's like 2% of people that are willing to start right at the very beginning with no information because their risk tolerance is so high. If there was a flying spaceship out there, 2% of people would get in that spaceship because it's very novel, very new, and be like, I wonder what this is. And then there's like 14% of people that were like, okay, hold on, let me watch these 2% first. What are the details? How do we know it doesn't get crash, whatever. Okay, these 5 people survived. I will get in now. And that's like 13%. And then there's like 34%, which is like the later adopters who are like, okay, the early 10% have done it. They survived. There's still not so much research and data that I know I'm not going to die, but it seems to be fairly safe and I'll join. And what businesses struggle with is then there's like a whole nother 50% of people on the back half of the curve. And that takes 20 years to get access to those people because they aren't able to get the early people on and build trust and get data and all that stuff. But what you're doing is you've built trust, you've gotten the data, you've gone through that innovation curve by getting these people to trust your platform. And then you're giving the business owner an opportunity to come into this trusted pool of people and fast track that innovation curve. Does that make sense?
That does. I mean, I don't know that I don't know that we've gone over that roller coaster. That's what I picture in my head when I picture the curve.
That's exactly right.
I think what we've built is a community of people interested in this space. So I can't say for sure that we have, 40% of early adopters in that pool of people, but we've got people that just love food and beverage. And so that's the audience you want to get in front of.
Right. And those people that love food and beverage are trusting you. And so my question is like, how do they know that you're someone they can trust? Like, what are you doing for them? You talked a little bit about maybe having a vetting process of the people that you bring in, but like how do they know that you're actually going to get them something that they want, or that if they just went to Google, they wouldn't get?
I think that, it's this sort of the same answer for both sides of the marketplace there. And it's just the transparency of information. We're not making any claims. We're putting information out there that, we create content that's based on information that's out there, and that tends to reach people widely. And it's interesting and informative. We may plug ourselves or our partners at the end of an interesting story, but it's not an ad. I don't think it feels manipulative. And so that's why people want to watch it and engage with it. On the business side, it's the same thing. And that's what we talked about earlier, where we're surfacing, reality to the businesses to be able to see how things are doing. We're engaging with them. We're having human conversations with them, and we're applying tech to things in a way that helps reduce their costs. We're not upselling. They know exactly what they're getting with each solution.
So the difference of me using your platform as somebody who loves food versus me going to Instagram or Google is there's no ad placement. I'm not going to get a group of options based on who paid me the most money. I'm going to get a group of options based on my buying history and the data that you guys have accumulated on me of what you think I want.
Correct. If you're using the app, and the app is part of the sort of whole solution, just something to keep in mind there, but we don't have a sponsored section. We have a promos section where we'll put, that gets a lot of views and conversion because people like to save money. So we'll put discounts for partners in that promo section, but we're not selling top of the list results to the businesses.
Right. I'm not going to see this company because they paid you more money. I'm going to see this company because that's somebody that you think I would want to go to because I said I want to have something within 5 minutes and I want the delivery fee to be below $10 and I really want Thai food.
Right.
Lovely. Okay. We're heading towards the end here. We want to get into the future section. Where do you think the future is going as far as food consumption is concerned?
That's such a broad question. I think it's going in a lot of places, really interesting places. Obviously, there's great moves towards sustainability and, healthier products. And I think what's cool for us is we're able, a lot of the businesses we're talking to are building into that space. And we're going to be able to help people find those businesses earlier rather than, the sort of all natural greenwashed product that they may see at the store, which is, lots of bad things are all natural, right? That means nothing. So we're talking to these companies that are innovating. They're keeping up with trends that we aren't in that space. And it's, we're just going to be able to expose them. One company we're talking to is doing really cool things with freeze drying, and all of their ingredients are organic and natural and, all things healthy ingredients. And in a world today where it's not just the organic and the natural and the healthy, which is trending and important, but unfortunately consider the hurricane crises that we're seeing, shelf stable is also really important. And the way that feeds into sustainability is, I think, something we're going to see increasing a lot. So, there's a lot that's driving the movement, I think, and that's going to continue to change. But I think that what's cool for us, and I may not be answering your question anymore, is that because we're focused on these super early stage innovative companies, they're the ones that are tapping into these trends at the earliest stages.
I love that. And so just to make sure I understood, the ideal, or where you think the world is going as far as the ideal food purchasing goes, is how long is it shelf stable? What's it going to cost me? How is it, probably important, how is it going to taste? And like, do I have the accurate health information instead of just saying organic, so I assume it's good for me?
I mean, I think it's my sincere hope that health and information accuracy and transparency continue to be the trends that drive the food industry. I think much the same way that the way we connect with consumers is based on ongoing trends, which are constantly shifting. Those may shift, but I think certainly there's a movement towards healthier food, towards sustainable food, towards alternative approaches to, to food that we're used to. And that doesn't necessarily mean meat made in a lab, although, that's a very interesting space as well. But alternative flours. We talked with a business the other day that's using popcorn flour to create products. And I think I hadn't heard of it. I didn't know it was a thing, but that's really interesting.
Okay, I love it. You're cutting edge on the innovation around food. We love to hear that. Okay, so we have some pretty connected and influential members who stay informed on our podcast. Outside of money, what is a partnership that could benefit you?
I think for us, we're just always trying to build our network around people interested in the space, right? People interested in innovation, people interested in food and beverage. And I actually would say, obviously I don't dislike money, but we're not out there fundraising right now. So that's not what we're going after. We're looking for people that are generally interested in trying to help small food and beverage businesses make an impact and that are willing to make introductions. Introductions are more valuable.
And what type of introductions? Just to those people? So you want to be introduced to other people who are interested in innovation around food?
Yeah, I try not to narrow that answer too much because you sort of never know what conversation is going to lead to the next conversation. Mm-hmm. I mean, call back to the early beginning of the episode, the connection that connected me with Laura, that's not what we were talking about that day. And that ended up being a definitive, sort of business altering conversation. I think we'd love introductions to, or transactionally, we'd love introductions to small food and beverage companies and founders that are having a difficult time getting the visibility that they should be able to get without, a huge spend on ads, basically.
Okay, I love it. Cody, do you want to land the plane with the signature ending?
Yeah, for sure. So one of the things that we love from the Diary of a CEO podcast is that every guest leaves a question for the last one. And so our last guest, his name was Todd Steinberg. He's from Camuso. So this little shift that I'm wearing right now is his, I think it's a breath tool. But his question that he left for you is if you could change one thing, like you could go back in time and change one thing about your business or a decision you made around your business or something like that with a time machine, what would that be?
All right. I will give you a realer answer, but I do kind of fundamentally believe in the concept of nothing because you learn from all of those mistakes, and that's really important to creating anything. I do think a lesson that was hard to learn, even though we're building a product that benefits consumers, is it's difficult to monetize B2C. And so it took some, I think, tough lessons there and extra runway, we'll say, to learn that lesson that I would love to have back. But,
Can I just make sure I heard this correctly? Did you say that no pain is unnecessary and you would not go back to eradicate any of it because you learned something from it and you wouldn't be who you were today if you didn't have it?
I mean, I would have to ask you to play back to know exactly what I said, but the theme is around that. Yes, you need to make mistakes to learn from them.
I love that. It's funny because that's what Todd said too. He's like, I hope the person that answers this would say that I would change nothing because it helped me get where I am. And so it's you hit it dead on. Founders must think similarly. So the last question then is for you. Like, what's a question that you'd like us to ask the next guest?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Would you want it to be business specific?
We've had somebody ask, do you think about the meaning of life and why we're here? And how often do you think about it? And what have you come to? We've had that. We've had Do you think you can spoil children? Do you think, like, there's so many wild questions. So anything you want.
I think I'm going to take it as an opportunity to help a customer we don't have yet and say, what's the coolest food or beverage product you've seen recently that you're really excited about having?
That's genius right there.
All right. What's the coolest food or bev company or product
Let's say
that
new.
you've seen?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. What's the coolest /
We need to
new?
have innovation in there somehow because, yeah, there we go.
Okay, cool. All right, we'll ask him. I'm excited. I think it's Ben Whitspy from Pilot who we're talking to next. He has a neurotech device that measures when you're in a flow state. So I'm sure he will love that question.
Very on brand for Ben. Yeah.
There you go. There you go. Cool. Well, we really appreciate you hopping on. Is there anything that you'd like to leave the audience with or any place you'd like to direct their attention?
Oh, I mean, I guess I'll say thanks so much for your time. If you'd love to, or if you'd like to talk with me, it's not hard to find me, Mandy Poston. Availist is a unique name and often mispronounced. So well done, Miles. We're at like 50-50. Availist. We own the SEO on that because nobody else has named that. So you can find us pretty easily.
It was available on the list.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
I love that. We'll drop that in the show description as well so that people don't have to click it or have to type it in every time. But
yeah,
if they do, awesome. So we appreciate you taking some time to chat with us today as well. So thank you so much.
Yeah, it was a blast. Thank you.
Again, if you guys have not liked and subscribed on YouTube already, please do that. Otherwise, we'll see you next time on Decision Lab. Peace.